Okay, great. Welcome, everyone. Happy, beautiful afternoon in California. My name is Lisa Nash, and I run a nonprofit called Blue Planet Network. And we are specifically designed to help over 100 water and sanitation organizations around the world who are doing amazing work bringing water and sanitation to people who do not have it today, but don't have the tools they need or the communication they need to really do the best job they can. So our network of 110 organizations, of which Sabore's Well is one, work together online on our online platform in order to share information, share their learning, and they use our mobile and internet tools and services in order to be able to better manage their programs and monitor them from a long-term basis. Because all the great work in the world goes down the drain if something breaks, someone doesn't know how to fix it, and suddenly all that work you put into building a well falls apart. So I am particularly excited today to introduce Sabore, who is in charge of Sabore's Well. He's going to tell you about an amazing story of an individual who saw a need in his community for water and sanitation and has worked to make it happen, and how he's using technology as well as just amazing stories to do it. So I would encourage all of you in this room and online to go check out Sabore's Well on our website, www.blueplanetnetwork.org, and you'll be able to follow along as he goes back to Kenya, implements his program, and you'll be able to meet the people who are impacted by his work and the great things that happen. So with that, Sabore, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Lisa, for the good introduction. And thank you, everybody. You're welcome. And thank you, Kai, for taking your time to come and talk with me. So my name is Sabore Ole Oye. I'm from Kenya, and I'm from the region of Narok County. And I'm a Maasai by the tribe. And I am happy to be here today to be able to speak out and tell people what my vision is and what I want to do for my community, for the women of my community, for the girls of my community, and how to better their lives. So as Lisa said, that my vision is to bring fresh water to the community and to be able to liberate women from walking between 6 and 8 miles or even up to 14 kilometers to go and collect water and bring it back to the village. And the water that they collect is not even clean water. It's just contaminated water. So I'm really happy that I'm here to be able to share it with you. Thank you.
Welcome, Sabore. My name, I know in Kenya we say my names, but my name is Kai Wullf. I work as the Access Field Director for Google, so my job is to connect the other 5 billion. Big theme is about shared infrastructure, like a borehole or a well is definitely something that I would consider a shared infrastructure. I'm what I call a business shark, so I'm not doing philanthropy as my main job. I'm basically looking at the business cases as well, and development in a community. And we had a discussion about a year ago, or a little bit less than a year ago. Development in a community can be incubated, in my opinion, by something that is driven by philanthropy, but long term, to be sustainable, needs the support network. The support network needs to come out of extra income that comes in the areas. And I would love to hear your thoughts about what you think will develop around those wells in terms of business opportunities and where income is derived. Because just to shorten the way to walk to get water is one aspect of it, but what else can be done?
That is one aspect of it. And then the other thing is about creating a chance for girls to go to school. Because being at home, helping your parent to go collect water or maybe go collect firewood is not the only thing that you can do. You can get an education and become a better person in future. Work for a big company, go to high tech and do stuff like that. I believe that the girls in my community are capable of doing that. And also for the women, in future, we are not planning to do it after we get the first wells, we are planning to have maybe irrigation, like a small scheme irrigation for the women to be able to grow their own crops.
You remember the reservation that many people had about the Maasai being herdsmen and not necessarily into farming, and this transition, how it works culturally. It would be of interest to again share with us why you think this change of mindset will come about, that you have now women being empowered in a society where women before, no matter if they had access to water or not, were not necessarily empowered. So what makes the mind change work? Do you think that it has a long-term social impact if women have more to say in a society? There is statistics out there that societies led by women are more peaceful, more inclusive, more prosperous over time. So tell us about your challenges you're having. You are an elder, there are other elders. It would be against what I know about the Maasai I have interacted with in my life, that everybody agrees that easily. So I would love that you share a little bit with everybody in what are the challenges, what are the pushbacks you're getting, and what do you think is the point where people will accept the model, that it's working, that it's actually beneficial?
Our culture is a very rich culture, and it's deeply rooted into peoples. And like Father Fall up talking about the change set mind of coming to do agriculture, most of the land is now demarcated, that people owns land. Mm-hmm. And in order for them to sustain themselves, I believe in sometimes to come, there will be a lot of movement of nomadics moving the cows. As you know, cows are very special to us. There will be no movement of cows going one place to another. So the alternative is to grow maize, wheat, and of which they have already started learning it. And, educating a girl is educating a village. And I believe that as the women are starting to be empowered, getting the education and getting to know what's going around the world and understand whether they are right, it's something that will change the culture. And I believe it's going to change the culture on a positive way that we need, that is the direction we need to go. They also need to be part of decision making within the society, because when you look at for example, probably women can start like a women group that will create a business for them to be able to take care of their children, help them, and buy clothes for them, which is the men can also help on that. So I think it is very critical that they also get the chance to expose themselves and become better people in future. And I know it's hard for a culture that has been women are less powered people, It's really hard for a culture like that to change, like instantly. It will have to take some time. And it will have to take a lot of commitment between the youth and the elder people. Going out and doing, talking to people and campaigning for that. That is the best thing. And involving the community too is one of the most critical thing that you have to do. Yeah.
So you're saying it's not necessarily only a problem of funding a well or of funding a business venture. It's the whole ecosystem you have to look at it, that people believe in it, that you don't have too much pushback. I don't let you lose on the pushback. So tell me some of the prejudices you got. And last time we even had the discussion about the influence of certain NGOs or certain churches into community that comes from a different mindset that tries to impose rather than to include. So I think that's of utmost interest, because some people believe there is a silver bullet. Some people believe you just throw money at a problem and everything will be solved, or dig a hole and call it a well, and then don't have the support system with it.
I think the best thing is if you want to come up and help the community, you want to do something. The best thing is to go to them and ask them what exactly they want and what exactly is important for them. Because you might come up with $100,000 and you tell us, I want you to build a church. And the church is not what we want. We want a hospital, we want water, we want a school. So the best thing is to go with them and involve them and tell them that this is what I want, and fund what they want for you to do. For now, for our project is not involving a big NGO coming in and to say that this is what we want. I myself and some other people in my partners that I work with just came out with, this is our vision and this is what we want to do. And this was my idea to come up that we need water to be able to liberate these women from going there. So the challenges are within the people who comes in and how we can be able to include them within us. So they have to accept what we want, not coming in and say that this is what I want you to do. So actually those are the best, the most challenges. And when you look at the big NGOs, the big NGOs comes in with an objection of, we want you to do this. In business, we want you to buy cows, and for example, Action Aid, do this and this and this. We want you to go to school, we want you to buy cows and keep it as a business, of which is really good, because this is empowering them and trying to improve their life. But it depends on what people need most. Yes.
So the learning is there's no one size fits all, and you can't just use the same blueprint of development all over Africa. And not even within two Maasai communities you would be able to just replicate what one has been doing, because the need in the other might be wild animals killing the fields. So a fence might be more useful than a water well in another community.
That is true. Yeah. That is true.
So that's what we discussed last time as well. It's about let the community decide what has the most benefit. How would it, in your opinion, work if after the first philanthropic-driven approaches, now if you see there's need in a community, need for businessmen is always equals income. So if you have, after a certain incubation stage, do you see that the whole model of aid or of incubating this could be sooner or later being turned around into loans and funding of businesses? So rather than funding the borehole as a donation, which you have to do in the beginning to incubate the whole thing, long-term funding other boreholes and infrastructure as a loan, which is payable back, so which gives the community more power to say what I want to do with the money that I'm borrowing, rather than having to live with, I get money, and this is because I give you the money for free, I can dictate what you're supposed to do. Do you think that's a model that could work?
For now, we're still a very young stage. We're growing up as a community-based organization. And I think in future, as far as we go, because my vision was to build 2 wells. But after attending a program in Santa Clara about Global Leaders for Justice, sponsored by an organization called GWM, Global Women Leadership Network, I changed my vision into 400 wells. So to be able to do that, this will take up some time for me to be able, and the community to be able to grow and be able to sustain themselves in maintaining the wells and how much money comes out of the well, because eventually we'll have to charge a certain amount of money to be able to maintain it and do other needed stuff within the borehole. So anything that comes out there is the first priority will pay a school fees for a girl. And these girls, we believe if she goes to school, she can bring back to the village and give it back to the village. So it's something that eventually in future will work, depending on how much income we'll get from getting the borehole. If it is enough to sustain the borehole, pay the school fees for a certain number of girls, and then the remaining we can ask the women to do what they want with the money. They want to start a women group, if want to do an irrigation scheme, if it depends on what they will do.
So it's, to summarize it, it's like venture capital, just that you don't expect the return in 2 years, but you're looking at the generational change in a society that then has all the business cases attached to it. So people can pay for the services they're receiving, people can see them as business cases, can roll out themselves. Because I'm always saying there is not enough money, even if you collect all the surplus money that people have, to do everything as a philanthropic exercise. It needs to be ultimately driven by the principles of service rendered, service paid.
So this is something that is, no, we're not looking to do it just right now. We're looking at a sustainable project that if I'm not there, somebody else will be able to see that something was done here, and we need to continue with what Sabore or what the women have been doing. We need to continue. So it's a project that a long-term project. Yeah.
Okay, and then hopefully it will be replicated in other communities in their flavor.
Correct. This is it's not only going to be in my community. As time goes and we have the resources, we will expand it, because this is not my last one. I'll have to keep going. Yeah.
I just hope you are not then going to the other community and say, you need a borehole, you need to...
No. It's all up to them.
Right.
But, I'll have to propose. I'll propose to them that, do you guys need water? Because the places that I'm thinking that need water is a wide area. And I know what they're going through. Same thing that we are going through is also they're also going through. So if I propose them and that is what they want, you go with them. Yes.
Okay.
It's good to throw an idea and tell people that you guys, this is what you need. And I know they're very critical. They need them.
Yeah. And you know my passion. Where there's water, the next step would be how do we generate energy that is sustainable, that is not running on diesel, that needs to be imported. How do we create communication around such a location to make it even more compelling to go there, to push more content? This is what I see as a shared infrastructure. It's not only just for water. It's a new community center that's hopefully going to be generated.
Yeah, I really like your idea of bringing all the technology to where the water source, so that create that communication with because I think we have to have both things. We have to keep our culture, which is something that has been lost in some societies, and we like to have it. But we also have to have technology and learn what's going on in the world. Because, for example, if I go back to the village, I can now use my computer, I can use my phone. And I would like any other person to be able to do that in my village. So that we can also know what is going on around the world, and help people understand what are the importance of having education as a way to progress their life. Yeah.
I'm always saying if you connect the community, it's usually the world learning more about or out of the community than actually the other way around. So, I mean, a diversity of ideas, a diversity of cultures makes everybody's life richer. So if you contribute as a small community with 1,000 people to the internet society, which is 2-3 billion, the trade balance should be in a way that you are actually contributing more to the ecosystem that you're taking out of the ecosystem.
Correct.
And,
Yeah.
and that's very encouraging to see that you want to keep the culture, that you're saying, no. The first thing we want to do is once we have the borehole and once we have internet, we are going to dress in designer jeans and just want to sit and write applications for mobile phones.
No.
As much as I love people writing applications for mobile phones, but it can't be, in my opinion, the ultimate outcome that everybody in the world only writes applications, because the application needs to serve something. And I had a discussion this morning with somebody about how he would envisage a business case in rural Africa. Now, of course, I usually don't speak about rural Africa. I'm very cognizant that within a 5-kilometer radius, you might have 3 different cultures clashing together in Africa. But I was asking, and everything was driven about urbanization, and those people should move into the city. And my challenge was, and who is going to feed the world if everybody lives in the city? Where's the food going to come from? From rooftops?
That is true, because we have people back at home that goes to the city and become, who have got education, they go to the city and become big people, lawyers and working in companies, but they still come back to the village. I think you can hold both things in one. You can hold your spear on your left hand, and you can hold a pen on the right hand. Mm-hmm. And that means you can be in both worlds.
Yeah. Not when you go through TSA checks.
No.
Very challenging, yeah. Very challenging. I think they take this away. This is worse than a pocket knife or a nail clipper.
So I think this is what the people should understand, that mm-hmm. you need to have both. You don't have to be in the city. If you go to school, you remain back in the city and work in the city. Like you said, who is going to feed the world? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they need to go back in the village and be able to be there, and also be able to contribute back to the community for what they have learned.
Yeah. That's very encouraging. I think we open the floor for a few questions.
Yeah.
And then if I have any other crazy question for you, I will just interject.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to Therese, who is actually the person who helped me out with my vision. Mm-hmm. I had the vision wrote the proposal for about 4 years. I didn't know what to do until I met her. And I can see now my vision is becoming to a reality.
And if you need a business advisor in terms
Definitely.
of what comes next.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can you speak about the challenges of drilling wells in Kenya? In particular, what type of material do you need to go through? How difficult is the material to penetrate? How deep do you typically have to go? How large are these wells, and what kind of water flow can you expect out of one? So what are those challenges?
According to the hydrological survey that we have done, because we have to go through a hydrological survey, and the hydrological survey has to be approved by the government as a registered engineer. And we went through that, and we got the report. And the deepest maximum we can go is 250 meters. And the minimum is 120 meters. And according to his report, that there was enough water that it can produce around 8,000 liters in 1 hour. Yeah, so there was enough water. And the other challenges is also to be approved by the government to be able to get an authorization to drill the boreholes. And as you know, we don't have our own company that drill the well. We have to find out the companies that are really experienced, and there are a lot of shady work that you can find everywhere. So we have to be very keen on looking for the best company that can drill the boreholes. And we just pay them, they bring all the material that we need.
Thank you.
Yeah. There were, maybe I can add, there were a lot of challenges in people digging wild boreholes, especially affluent people within the city. Like in Nairobi, the groundwater levels for for this have dropped tremendously because everybody was drilling a wild borehole. People were drilling boreholes for irrigation purposes, but went into what's called the ice in the salt layers. So after a while, the fields become unusable. So I have to give kudos to the Kenyan government to be now very restrictive in not just every NGO or every farmer or everybody coming up and just digging a borehole. There are other areas where 120 meters is not a wild borehole. That's difficult to do. But you have other areas where the groundwater levels are much lower, and you don't want a scenario that the fields get spoiled by salt content in the ground, or that the water you pump out get contaminated by the graveyard next door. And these were all cases, actual cases that happened. And hopefully, with the involvement of the communities, the community itself, if it's educated, will push governments there and in other countries to say, wait a minute, it's a good thing. It needs to be handled in a proper way. And if everything happens transparently and there is no what we called kito-kidogo, a little something that needs to be paid, then this is a very positive development. And as I said, I'm usually very skeptical when it comes to giving kudos to government regulations, over-regulating. But when it comes to water, sanitation, natural resources that can easily backfire, that's a very good thing. And I have to say, I looked at the project and there was a lot of due diligence done on not to create those problems.
A follow-on question to that is that Kenya has lots of wonderful resources, beautiful ocean fronts, lakes. It's the #1 safari destination for tourists to come there.
Thank you.
Anyway, along those lines, has any consideration, I know the population doesn't typically exist in those areas, but is there any consideration going forward to desalination plants that could draw from the oceans, or water treatment plants that could draw from the lakes, or is this strictly a well endeavor?
First of all, I think we live about, to where I live, we live, I'll say like 600 or 700 kilometers away from the sea, very far away. And we don't have a lake around us. There are a few lakes in Kenya, Lake Naivasha, Lake Nakuru, Lake Victoria, Lake Turkana. There are a few lakes in Kenya, but we are totally different, far away. What we have a river, which is called the Wasonyiro. There is 2 Wasonyiros. There is North Rift Wasonyiro and there is South Rift Wasonyiro. And we are in the South Rift Wasonyiro. And it's about, from where I live, it's about 7 kilometers away from the river. So drawing that water from the river, it will take a lot of resources. And cleaning it and trying to purify the water, it takes a lot of resources. So the best priority, the best thing to do is the boreholes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you very much. I'm a cultural ambassador for my country. So I am really happy when you say it's one of the best destinations. Tourism is the best.
He said it's the best.
Best.
We could never say that because we're biased. But
Yeah.
he said it's
I just wonder, how do you find the well? I know in Northern California, they often bring these mystical people out, dowsers with a rod, and they pull you up and down. As they say, half the time the company comes out, they can't find it. They're drilling blind, even though they've done some kind of study. But these witch doctors or whatever can actually, half the time, find it. How do they find where the well is in the first place, or where to drill?
Honestly, I'm not really sure how they do it and how they sense it, but they have metal. They use kind of metal there. This engineer was using kind of metal. He had a machine that he was reading some numbers, and that's how he said that.
ground electricity resistance levels. You can measure out magnet fields that are giving you an indication where underground there should be a flow, because it doesn't help you if you just drill down and you have stale groundwater. You need to have some kind of flow. So you need earth underneath with stones that allow the movement of water. Movement of water, because it's a bipole, creates a magnet field. And that's the same principle those guys are using, because they're very sensible to this. My dad and myself, we could do this as a game. You know, I wouldn't do it professionally, but we had a pretty good hit rate. It's a subconscious thing. People or animals react to magnet fields. It's no magic involved with it. It's simply that, you know, you have to believe in it and you have to be loose enough to do it.
And then I follow on. Are there any issues with a well going dry? I mean, how do you know that there's enough water there that every year for 100 years or something there'll be water? Or is that an issue? Like the well goes dry, so you have to move over and do something like that?
Oh, no.
I think that one will depend actually on the usage of water, and how much is the water being used, and how much you've gone deep to where the source is. Because according to the report that he said, there is 8,000 liters in 1 hour. I think that is enough water. So we believe in, you know, you never know about nature. You know, you cannot predict when it's going to end. But we believe it's going to last for a long time.
I was just wondering, considering it's a community-based effort, what kind of individual participation are you looking at from people that are not based in the community? People outside?
We mostly, what we like is we will appreciate the advice on look people like Kai to be able to come and give us an advice on what can we do in future. And I think when you're also constructing the borehole, we also need people to come and help, volunteers, and do something to be able to help us on building the structure of the house, and also helping on giving us advices on how to maintain, and mostly is on how we can get the funding on for the next project.
I would give you a business case. Open a little tent camp for volunteers to come over and help with the work, and sell the spaces in the tent camp, and then be a moving camp and a builder. So you never know. Yeah. Everything is driven by business in the end. I mean, I would like to say thank you for everybody who has worked very, very hard on the project. I think Sabore has a few things to sell that support the cause as well. And I'm very, very happy to be aligned with it and to help with advice and whatever else I can do for my old home, Kenya.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming. And we also have some stuff that we support widows, because they are not supposed to remarry again. So we also support them to take their children to school. So I bring the beadwork for them that they make, so that I can take something back to them. Thank you very much.
Okay.